Hey everyone, it's Attorney Avi. I've made this video just for you because you've received a work history report from DDS. DDS stands for Disability Determination Services, and they're the agency that's tasked with making the medical determination on your case. I'm holding in front of me a work history report. The work history report, if you print it out on the internet or if it's sent to you, it says up to 14 pages. But the reality is that if you've only had one job over the course of the last 5 years, it's only going to be 3 pages. The reason that they have 14 pages is because some of you have had multiple jobs and they give you an opportunity to go ahead and describe those multiple jobs. But each slice, each job is really only going to be 3 pages. Now, when you get this, if you can fill it out on your own, you don't have to type it, you can do it by hand. I want to go through some of these questions with you together so that we know how to fill this out together. Section 1, information about you, that's pretty self-explanatory. The work history. You know, it used to be that they would go back 15 years. Recent changes in the law now says that Social Security can only go back 5 years. That's in your benefit because they're not evaluating more jobs that you had, they're evaluating less jobs you had, only jobs in the last 5 years. It's asking about the job title. It gives an example of cashier. And that's right, if you were a cashier, then you're gonna write cashier. If you were a stalker, you would write stalker. If you were a security guard, teacher, nurse, engineer, doctor, lawyer, whatever it is, you're gonna write that job title. The type of the business, to the best of your ability, you wanna kind of put what industry it's in, or you wanna describe what type of business it is. And to the best of your memory, you wanna put to and from. Remember, you can't hide jobs from Social Security if you paid taxes. Remember, they're gonna run your earning record. So be truthful and be honest, and we want the work history report to match up with the earning record that they're gonna run. As you turn to page 4, you'll see at the top over there, it says job title number 1. Remember I told you a few minutes ago that if you had a lot of jobs, they're gonna give you a lot of pages to fill that out? That's true. And you'll notice that about every 3 pages, it will say on the top, job title 1, 3 pages later, job title 2, 3 pages later, job title 3. So some of you may only be filling out 3 pages and then the last page. Some of you who've had multiple jobs in the last 5 years will be filling out 3 pages and then 3 pages and then 3 pages. Okay? Okay. They're gonna ask your job title. That job title should match up with the job title that you put on the initial introductory page on page 3 of 14. So if you said you were a security guard, when you get the job title number 1, you want to write security guard. If you said you were a teacher, you remember it's got to match up. A teacher is a teacher, a nurse is a nurse. Don't start changing around everything. Keep it consistent. If you remember your rate of pay, put the rate of pay. And if you remember the hours of day that you work and the hours and the number of hours in a week you work, you want to put that down. So it says over here, the first question for the job listed in job title 1, describe in detail the tasks you did in a typical workday. And it gives some examples: stocking shelves, greeting customers, scheduling appointments, maintaining records. Some of you may have just answered the phones. So you want to put down answered phones. Receptionist. If you did these other things, it says describe in detail. Excuse me, I would say details are always important, but for this particular question, there's a saying and an acronym, KISS, K-I-S-S. I learned it in business school. KISS stands for keep it simple, stupid. I'm not calling you stupid. I'm teaching you a management technique. Keep it simple, stupid. Keep it simple. Don't get too detailed. The more detailed you have, the more skills, the more transferable skills you're gonna have. Later on at the hearing, there's gonna be a vocational expert who's gonna give some testimony to the judge about the jobs that you had and what skills are needed at that job. So remember, some people say, well, this is my time to shine and this is my time to sparkle and I'm gonna tell them every single thing that I did. That's a lot of transferable skills and a lot of things that you can do that can be transferred over to other jobs. So just keep it simple. Next question. The tasks listed above involved writing or completing reports. Describe the type of report you wrote or completed and how much time you spent on it per workday or work week. If it doesn't apply to you because you didn't do reports, then just put NA, not applicable, or write does not apply. You want to go ahead and you want to give them a sense of what you did. You may want to write on there typed out reports, and then in parentheses write can no longer type. But they're not really looking as much for what you can or cannot do today. They're looking for what you were able to do before when you were working. Any of the tasks listed above involve supervising others. For purposes of Social Security, supervising includes payroll, hiring, and firing. That doesn't mean that you supervise necessarily children in a classroom. They're talking about payroll and hiring and firing. I guess if you were a teacher, it would be appropriate to write supervised classroom. But on the technical legal side, when they talk about supervising people, they're talking about hiring and firing and payroll. If you just went ahead and trained a few people, that's not necessarily supervising, because you didn't do the hiring or firing and you didn't do the payroll. You just trained someone a little bit, maybe they shadowed you a little bit. That's not supervising. List the machines, tools, and equipment you used. Forklifts, air compressors, meat slicers, telephones. I think you can answer that question. It's pretty self-explanatory. If you had any machines or equipment that you used, you can put that down. And then, does this job require you to interact with coworkers, general public, or anyone else? This is a very important question, because if you cannot interact any longer with the general public, coworkers, or supervisors, they need to know about that. So you may want to write, it says, if yes, describe who you interacted with. You could put down, yes, I used to, but in parentheses, you may want to write in, can no longer do that. The next page, or the third page of this job title number 1, they're going to talk about standing and walking, sitting, stooping, kneeling, crouching, crawling, using fingers to touch, using your hands to seize, grasp, and turn, reaching at or below the shoulder, reaching overhead, climbing stairs and ramps, or climbing ladders, ropes, or scaffolding. It's very simple. They just want to know how much of your workday was spent doing that. So you may say 4 hours standing. Let's say you served ice cream in a store or whatever it is. You may say, well, I stood all day long. I stood 8 hours a day. I was a waiter or waitress. I stood 8 hours a day. I was a security guard. There's different types of security guards. There's some that sit all day long and look at a monitor screen. It's a sedentary job. You don't do any standing. And there's other type of security guards that may walk around a premises and supervise or guard, provide security services for that premises. So you just want to say how much of the workday you went ahead and you did those tasks. The heaviest weight lifted. We're not talking about the one time at the job that you lifted a big, huge box that you could barely lift. They're talking about generally on an average day, how much did you lift? Was it a piece of paper? Was it, I gave the example a few minutes ago, of a waiter or waitress, where you were going ahead and you're maybe carrying some trays? Or were you going ahead and you were a laborer? You were lifting rocks, you were moving refrigerators. I think you know what to write over there on your heaviest weight lifted. Remember, it distinguishes between the heaviest weight lifted and the frequently lifted. Make sure you go ahead and you get those questions right. The last question is pretty self-explanatory. Did the job expose you to any of the following? If you were around extreme heat or extreme cold or wetness or humidity or moving mechanical parts, just write that down. And then over here, explain your medical conditions that would affect your ability to do this job. That is an important question. And in fact, if you need extra space, I would tell you to put a little star and add a piece of paper and say, see other page. The most important thing that I think that you want to write down, if you're having brain fog, if you cannot move anymore, those are important things, and you should put those down as to your medical conditions and how they affect your job. But I want to give you 2 very important tips. The first one is unscheduled breaks. It says here, explain how your medical conditions would affect your ability to do this job. Well, I need unscheduled breaks. You may have to go to the bathroom a lot because of a side effect of your medication or because of your condition. It just requires you irritable bowel syndrome. Unscheduled breaks, define to them, I need to go to the bathroom 10 times before lunchtime. What about calling in because you're not feeling well, you're calling in sick, attendance? So the 2 things, unscheduled breaks and attendance, you want to get those covered. As you move over to the next pages, you're going to see, like I said, I promised you 3 pages per job. The 3 pages per job is what you're getting. If you don't have a second job, then just write not applicable. Keep moving forward on page 8. Job number 3, not applicable. If you did have multiple jobs, then you have to fill that out the same way you filled out job number 1. And then you get to the last page. The last page says remarks. Again, if you didn't write earlier on that you need unscheduled breaks, if you didn't write earlier on that you're going to be calling in sick and that you are unreliable and undependable, if you're having anxiety attacks and you can't be around people, if you need to use the bathroom more than a regular amount of time, more than a regular person, the remarks section is where you want to do it. If you have gaps in your work history, you may want to put that there. You may have gotten sick in between your jobs and you took off a year. If you were self-employed, you may want to note that over here that you were able to work at your own schedule, or that you worked at home remotely, or that I worked at home but I needed to elevate my feet, or I could stand and stretch as needed. If you need to use a cane or a walker to ambulate, that's the place to put it. You want to, again, the purpose of this work history report is to add color and detail to your story. This is your story. I know you can do it. If you have any questions, don't be shy. Email us the questions. If you want us to review your work history report, feel free to email us the work history report. If you want us to fax it into the DDS worker, I'm happy to fax it into you. It's as simple as emailing it to me. I know you can do it. The work history report is a very important document, as is the adult function report, which we just spoke about in the other video. If you don't complete a work history report, your case and claim will get denied. You must return it in a timely manner. I believe that they usually give 10 to 14 days. That's a soft deadline. If you need a couple days extra, you're okay. But you should try to get it in a timely fashion within the 10 to 14 days. Remember, I want you to be a winner chicken dinner, my friends. These tips are designed to help you. I've taken you step by step, question by question, so that you can fill out this form correctly. It can give the details that you need, so that way you can help yourself on your journey to getting approved.